Welcome to another episode of Good Soup After Dark. Please make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and enjoy our interview with our very special guest, JXHAR. And he also promoted a really special event that's coming up November 16th. Roses and Ruckus. We'll drop links in the description below. JXHAR and Good Soup After Dark. Good Soup After Dark. Hi there, welcome to another episode of Good Soup After Dark. I'm today's host, Jay Gonzalez. We have Marie Ree on the ones and twos behind the camera. And we have a very special guest today. JXHAR, how are you?
What's up? Happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Awesome, man. Thank you for coming. And if we can just a lot of people in Philly already know who you are, but if you can give the people just a quick introduction on who you are.
What's up, everyone? My name is JXHAR. I am a Harlem raised, Baltimore-born artist. Moved out here to Philly. I'm an R&B rapper, producer, event curator now, and I also run my own creative agency called Runaway Roses. I've been doing that for a couple of years, and I'm excited to show everyone what I can bring to the future.
Awesome, man. You mentioned Runaway Roses, and that's pretty much how we met you. We attended, I believe it was Rhymes and Roses.
Roses and Rhymes. You got it though. Right. It's all as long as you were there. That's all that matters.
And that's how we met you. A friend of ours, CSW, was DJing, and he kind of put us onto the event, and we showed up, and it was like a really cool thing. Like, you got the nice house with the rooftop situation going. Do you want to just like talk about like Runaway Roses and like kind of just brief inception of it and just like what Runaway Roses is?
Yeah, so Runaway Roses, it's funny that you asked what Runaway Roses is, because for the longest time, I didn't really know. At its core, Runaway Roses is a creative family. We are multi-talented, multidisciplinary, so that means we could do anything from videography, a photo shoot, merchandise release, releasing songs, events. We do it all. Anything in the creative scene, if you need us, we're there. We really started in 2018, 2019. Our first event that we ever did was Bad Days with Friends. Besides me, there's Anthony Obas, there's Kofi, part of Everything Under Wraps. We have Rihanna consulting, and the other people that do work behind the scenes in Runaway are all close friends, family, or peers. No one's on Runaway is here just because of clout or name recognition. Like they earned their spot here. And there's a lot of people that work behind the scenes that people will never know.
So just as far as just like Runaway Roses and the event curation, like where did that come about? I mean, that's like a huge undertaking. Just like, I mean, throwing a party in my apartment is a lot. So to like do that on a larger scale, like where did that come from? And like, where did the confidence to do that come from?
The idea of doing the events at my own space really came from this anger that I felt towards the industry and some of the more higher ups and, the politics and just the behind the scenes stuff that goes on. I had been trying for a really long time to be a part of a festival, and whether it was ticket disagreements or just our personalities just not matching, it just felt like I couldn't find a festival or a brand that could give me a fair offer or that could even just do right morally. So I said, it. If no one else wants to give me a fair deal or treat artists fair, then I'll do it. I'll do my own show. Yeah, it may not be Rolling Loud or this other huge festivals, but I could do it myself and we could have fun and it'll be way more of a memorable time. And yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you bring up like artists being treated fairly and morally, and I don't think like a lot of people get that. Like for me personally, just getting into this media / entertainment space, what we're doing, you don't really take that into account, like working with other people. You don't have to get into like specifics about like negative experiences, But I mean, from my understanding, you started this at quite an early age. So you either like had insight to what it was, or you had a really bad experience. Like, can you expound on that a little bit and how that motivates you to treat artists and like other people you work with fairly?
Yeah, for sure. I had thrown my first event, my first headlining show. We curated it, booked the venue, all of that when I was 19. And that really started because the similar principle of me being a hungry artist looking for a venue, a brand, a business just to do right by me, and no one else did. So I saved up some money, spoke to my business manager, and I actually had him purchase the venue under his name because, again, I was too young. Even at 19, even though you are an adult, like it always cracked me up that legally I could get arrested. But if I want to buy a venue or rent a car or do these things, like there's a whole bunch of hoops. Like what are we talking about? So regardless of that, I had a business manager, he rented out the venue in his name, and we packed out the show completely. Like we had an amazing time. And that showed me at 19 that, like I'm on the right track or something. It may not have all the kinks worked out or everything didn't go perfect to plan, but we got something here. We're doing something. So
it's really cool. Do you want to talk about like your first event?
Yeah, for sure. Bad Days with Friends was the funniest and craziest event I've ever done because it's the first. It's no matter what it is, the first time is always the worst time. That's what anyone says, right? So and it's crazy looking back because our first event, shout out Old Boss, shout out Rihanna and Kofi, and Chris, all my people that were there with me in 2019. We rented out a small studio called Funkadelic Studios, and it was a rehearsal room. The rehearsal room, like I said, because my business manager rented it out, she had met me through email, but didn't know that me on email was not the person that was actually coming to see the venue. So my business manager went to actually go physically see it, and he came back. He's like, listen, it's a great spot. It could only hold about 30, 35 people. So with 30, 35 people, I hear that, and of course I'm like, okay, so we could probably fit in like a cool 60, right? Because if they say 35, they're being generous.
Fire codes be damned.
Yeah, fire codes be damned. Because they were like, 35 people sitting. And I was like, well, I don't plan on giving out seats. So if it's 35 sitting, it's about a good 60 standing. We had such a great time, but just the nervousness I remember before the event. Because if we might have needed if we might need like 45 tickets to sell out, we might have had 2 tickets purchased until 2 days away from the show. So if like the show was the 9th, our total sales was 2 tickets sold by the 7th. And I just remember calling my business just like, I'm a failure. We're not gonna do it. And the night before, and it just showed me like, I hate my generation sometimes because we just wait so last minute to buy tickets. The night before, literally, everyone just bought all these tickets and we sold out. And I was just like, oh, okay, cool.
Why do you think that is? If I could bring up a point, actually about you, Marie. Marie's a tattoo artist. Mm-hmm. And like she mainly works Sundays. And like I would tell her like, you gotta start telling people you're available on Sunday, like Monday, you know, the Monday before. And she's like, no, you just wait till like a day or two before. Yep. And then usually Sunday she's booked. So like, why do you think that is?
I think when it comes to entertainment and things that, and it's sad to say, but when it's things that are more independent, people have a hard time locking into stuff than they do if it's something that has some type of recognition. So me saying, hey, come out to my show on this Saturday is very much, the average response from the person is, hey, if I could fit it in, if it's in my time schedule, I got you. Versus me being like, hey, you know that like Rihanna's doing a listening party to her new album on Thursday. It's like, I don't care what I'm doing. If I have to skip work, I'm going to that listening party. And it's not, and I get it. Listen, Rihanna's your favorite artist or any major label artist, different people like that. I get that need to be like, oh, well, I have to go do this, I have to do that. But both are the same thing in my eyes. So why is it one is if I could work it out, while the other one is, oh, well, I'll sneak out my job without my boss knowing to go to that Rihanna show or Rihanna. So it's sad to say, but people would like having the option of canceling at the last minute on something that's independent versus something that's major.
And like, how do you deal with that obstacle, or is it just really chance? Or
I think when the idea of people kind of buying stuff last minute comes, or you think about it, it's something that you can't really plan. You just have to accept it and you try and make adjustments. So because even though people buy stuff last minute, I'm very direct with my consumers. Like I DM, send out emails, I keep people's numbers, and hey, yo, are you everything good with you? Like there was one attendee that we had who didn't make it to the last event, and I had seen them at the separate event that my friend was throwing. And I had told them, I just was like, yeah, you didn't come to the last event. I knew her name, like knew her email. She was like, oh, like you actually like know the people that are buying tickets. I was like, yeah, like if you want to come to the next show, you didn't make it to the last one, like I'll comp your ticket, you're good to go. Like whatever, bring a friend, I'll give them a half up deal, like whatever it is. And she just was so blown away. She was like, I've never met an event promoter who like runs into me on the street and says you could come to my next event, like remembers I bought a ticket, like remembers. Like I was like, yeah, that's not an average thing. Because to me, I think like I said, the idea of Runaway is like it's a family. Like yes, we are trying to thrive and make money off of like what we're doing, but at the same time, it's family first. So it's that family core of like we know everyone that comes in. We don't have these issues at our events because we're close. Like we're like this.
Well, I was gonna say like before, like you brought up just like very straightforward, like, hey, we're about making money. Like a lot of people will just like really push on like, oh, we're a family. Like, and maybe I'm thinking more like corporate or like jobs in America. Like,
and a lot of times I think those big corporate businesses and brands that say that they're a family, okay, you're a family, but because you're a family, you let a lot of other shit slide. Because, oh, that's your brother, and oh, that's like your sister or like your cousin. It's like, no, we hold each other accountable. Like we're a business with family ties, which is very different. Like we make sure that we get all our stuff together, everything is worked out, everything is thought about. But we do have those family core values, like we sit down and have dinner together. Most people don't have dinner with like their supervisors and assistants and all these other things. And even when people ask us about the different roles, my manager has been my consultant, has been my event planner, my fashionista, insider. Like we do everything and anything for each other. Like we help each other out. And that's what I mean by the family ties. We're always gonna get the business done, but you gotta have some morals, some type of core. Like what keeps you guys together, We
spoke about like how you want to treat artists more fairly and like more morally. Mm-hmm. What are examples of like things that you've seen in the field? It doesn't have to necessarily be like that you dealt with, but like what do you see that it's like, I am not going to do that? Like if you can just explain it to someone who doesn't know that world, what would you say to look out for?
Number one, I could give you my top 3. Number 1, pay to play. That is the number one thing I have to say for all artists. You got to look at that. Because if you are paying to play your music or to perform somewhere, you have to really think, do you want to get on a stage that anybody could perform on as long as they have $25? That's I'll just say that's number 1. Number 2, hands down, splits. Artists, it is okay to ask for your splits. If you are required to bring in 4 people or 4 or 5 fans or 2 fans to a show, what is your splits? Are you in the majority? Are you in the minority? Is it 50-50? Is it even talked about? Are you being paid to do what you're expected of? Or are they just saying, hey, you bring 4 artists and we'll let you perform for 15 minutes. And then that's it. So what happens if you're an artist that brings 8 people? You might have just brought in that venue $80 to $100. minimum. What did you get? Nothing. And it's like, I'm not gonna lie, if SEPTA costs like $250, $225, people could give you a cut. Like this, listen, my math isn't too great, but there's a lot of $250 and $100. So don't be afraid to ask for your splits. And lastly, number 3, it's the community. You want to surround yourself with artists that are pushing the agenda, pushing the norm. You don't want to just surround yourself with artists that make music that sound exactly like you, that artists that make music that sounds like you, or artists that look exactly like you, or artists that are in the same city as you. You want to expand, you want to broaden your field, different genres, different people. So look at your community. And I'd say that those are my top 3 things. Number 1, pay to play. Number 2, splits. And number 3, your community.
So I see you got like the business suit on. So like if someone was just like even entertaining the idea of working with Runaway Roses, like you can even look at the camera and make a sales pitch. But like, what does Runaway Roses do differently with those 3 different aspects that you listed?
Well, for number 1, pay to play, I have never and will never allow any artist to pay to get on my platform. That is not how this works. We curate each and every show. I listen to all the requests. The first time that we had Roses and Rhymes, we had over 50 submissions. I listened to all 50 submissions personally, multiple times. So that's to tell you, I really care. I had a whole notes section in my phone dedicated to each artist, where they were from, what I felt about the song, different things like that. So everything is hand done. It's done with care. This is not something that's just brushed off or just like, oh, whatever, we're here about just getting paid and that's it. Number 2, with the splits. If you perform at a show of mine, it's 80-20 splits and 80% in the favor of the artist, which most people don't do. I'm very big on, hey, if you're bringing out 4 people or 5 people, you should be getting paid majority of this. I should be getting a little bit and you should be getting a lot of it. And that's how I genuinely feel. Whether or not I was the event promoter or not, I feel like artists should get majority of the money if they're doing majority of the work. I'm not the one that's on the stage performing for 30 minutes in front of a whole bunch of people that I've never seen before. You're the one that's being courageous and taking the chance. You should be the one that's getting paid. So splits are very big for me. And I'm also very big on going over with artists why they should be getting paid that amount. Because for a lot of artists, they have never really been in a situation with any independent venue or slightly bigger venue that they're getting paid majority of the work. And so I do hold myself accountable on that and making sure like we pay each artist what they're rightfully deserved and explain to them why they are getting paid that amount. And lastly, with community, our community is very broad. We have Runaway members up in New Hampshire and Boston and New York City and Philly, all across East Coast and some even on the West Coast. So our community has always been tight-knit and very, very expansive. And I really enjoy that about us, that you never know who really is in Runaway. And that's kind of the beauty about it, is because I am the face of it, people know when they hear Runaway Roses, they know it's something to do with JXHAR. But people never really know, well, who are all the members of Runaway?
Oh, I actually have a question. What I listened to, that's that thing that you artists by yourself help you to more understand how art, like, because you said all of this, and it sounds like that's what I want, like an artist. And I do this for an artist because artists, kind of the same as me, need the same things. That's this move you, or you have like some kind of knowledge, you talk with someone, there's like, I don't know, mentor who just tell you need to do this, this, and this because it works, or it's bring more people to your community?
For me, it's exactly how you said. I'm an artist first, so I always am thinking as an artist, and you are correct that I did have some mentors that were like, oh, I think you should do this and that, but that was more support versus like a straight guideline. When it comes to events and it comes to these different shows or like music things that I've done, it's always been, well, what I think is like best for people. I do feel like if I didn't go through what I went through as an artist, I wouldn't have the same experience or the same viewpoint of like what shows are to do, or even like pay to play with events and these splits, or like knowing your community. Because if I didn't go through kind of those bad times and the people saying no so many times, or why they wouldn't let me do their show, or why they wouldn't let me rent out the venue, I would have no idea that it is possible to rent out a venue. You can do it in your own house. You can do these things yourself. Because if every door was open to me, I would have never known what it felt like to have a door closed. So I have to be thankful for both.
I wanted to ask you actually about the splits. Do you find that it helps motivate people to sell more tickets?
I do. I do feel like it helps motivate people to sell more tickets. And I can also say that I feel that for the artists who may doubt themselves or anything like that, it gives them a different sense of self-confidence that they may not have had before. And so it is good, because not every artist can sell out Powerhouse, but maybe you know 3 people that want to see you perform on a Saturday. So yeah.
So yeah, I mean, that was like, I really wanted to touch on the community aspect of it, especially because you got an event coming up on the 16th.
Yes, we do. Roses and Ruckus Revival of the Rage will be November 16th from 4:30 to 11 p.m. at Art Album. We have over 8 featured different artists. And let me tell you, from emo to punk rock and alternative rap, underground hip hop, like, it's going to be dope. So you're going to want to be there. Plus, we have DJ Mariama and Skolmerks killing it. So pop out, and plenty of vendors, food, clothes, art. Be there, November 16th.
So what's the motivation behind the theme of the show? Like the genre specifically?
So with Revival of the Rage, it's very interesting. I started Revival of the Rage, even just the idea of it, after going to a couple like emo and goth shows. And it's super interesting, the scene, because it's such a tight-knit community. Like, everyone really does kind of know each other, and they hold each other to a different sense, I feel like, of family. Because I think when it comes to the emo, goth, and alternative rock type of scene, they're usually the kids that were made fun of, or the outcasts, or the weirdos, to say. So when they're all together, it's like when the nerds link up. It's a nerd party. Like, it's lit. So I think, and that's to say, like, when the goth kids link up, like, it's a goth night, and it's hella fun. And someone personally that didn't really get into or really even know about the goth or emo scene until I got a lot older, being someone that really is an outsider, to some they'd say that, oh, like, I'm a poser. To have this outside view and looking in and be welcomed by that community was like, oh, this is dope. Like, I want to do something for y'all. So when I was at these goth emo events, I would notice that the Black community would always be there, but it was very like, if you know, you know. And I don't really like that. When I really asked them about, like, hey, is there any like Black goth event? They all kind of were just like, what? It's not really a thing. Like, it's not really a lot of like goth emo events or goth like Black events. Like, it's not a thing. Mm-hmm. So per usual, like I said, I just was like, well, if it's not a thing, it's time to make it a thing. And yeah, Roses and Ruckus.
Yeah, I was gonna say, because like when you started describing it, I'm like, I mean, Like I grew up listening to like emo rock and stuff, and I'm like, I don't know if the genre necessarily needs help, but I like how you kind of dialed in, like you're trying to elevate, you know, the Black community within that subsect of people, and it's just like, honestly, I think it's a really great thing. Like the art's not just, you know, moppy haired white kids. Like it's all types of people who deal with emotions, where emo comes from.
Yeah.
And like, so your motivation behind it was just seeing these people like at these larger events and just trying to give, you know, Black or brown people that opportunity to elevate themselves. And I think that's a really noble and cool thing that you're doing.
Yeah.
Have you done like, besides attending those events, you haven't like curated that type of event, or at least those types of artists? Have you worked with them?
Yes, I have worked with some. It's funny enough, my first event on Bad Days with Friends, we had about 3 artists that were more like rage mosh pit type of like rappers. So from a very early age, I've always started with curating these different acts that are completely different than like what would be the regular norm. I've never done a full event where I've gone into it being like, okay, this is an underground goth show, or this is like that. So this would be the first time that I'm ever having this like official underground goth like show or underground emo show. But I've always made sure to work with these different artists and get a chance to know them. I think it's important.
So mosh pits, have you had much experience in them?
I have been in a good amount of mosh pits. I will say though, the best mosh pit I've ever seen, not been in, I've ever seen it was a party in New York. It was a party in New York City, I think about 2021. And it was an all-girl mosh pit. And they were moshing to Doja Cat, Tia Tamera. And I never forget, those girls were in there throwing elbows, and I was scared because like they had very high heels, like they was kicking. I was like, yo, forget about the guy mosh pit. It's dangerous in there. Like they got nails. You may get cut up.
So it wasn't necessarily like Woodstock 99 levels, but it was up there.
Nah, that might have been up there. Like I was scared to hop in that mosh pit. I was like, those girls is keeping it gangster. I'm scared.
Like, I mean, this is an exciting undertaking. Like how has it been like promoting it so far? Like, have you generated like a lot of interest? Or?
Yes, the interest has been there. And it's funny, just off of the flyer, that's why I usually love dropping the flyer saying, hey, we're looking for artists. People are always like, oh my God, like I've been waiting for this, because if you're an emo rapper or a goth singer or in an alternative rock band and you're Black, like how many opportunities are really going to come through where they're like, hey, we're specifically looking for this. It's not just like, oh, if you just happen to be goth and make music, you could apply. But it's like, no. All those goth kids, all the weirdos, we want all of y'all here. Like, this is your safe home.
First off, how hard is it to like you probably get like a lot of good people, but you stuck with 8. Mm-hmm. Like, how hard is it to be like, I like you, but you're not in that lineup? Now, I mean, of course, like the good stuff rises to the top, but just like on a personal level, like how do you deal with that? That seems like a lot of pressure to just even do that.
It's hard because you got to also think a lot of the people that are applying, I do know. So it's very different when it's just like, oh, you're applying to this event and you don't really know the person, no harm, no foul. But it's like, I'm applying to this event and then I'm about to see you tomorrow. Ooh, that's a lot to explain in person why you're not the best suited for this event. But if I had to make the easy decisions, I wouldn't be in charge.
That's true. That's true. How many submissions did you get for this? Like, I mean, it sounds like it's not like it sounds like it's a big community, but like, how big it like? Did you get like dozens, hundreds? Like, what do you look?
No, we didn't get hundreds. We got this time around, I think we got about like 35 submissions. And yeah, and the first time, like I said, the first event we had about 70. But remember, that was open to all genres, and even now. In the Roses and Ruckus, we had R&B singers apply, and it's even hard telling them like, all right, you may be an amazing R&B singer, but this just isn't the right event for you. Not to say we're not they may not reach out to you for a future event, or even do I think even if you would apply to the last event, you would have been perfect. But it's like finding that right middle mark, because there are plenty of times where I've done events and it's been like, oh, they're really dope, or oh, I know just who I want to see them with, but it's not the right fit. The timing doesn't really work, or the location for other artists, different stuff like that. Yeah.
So speaking of locations, Art Album, can you talk about that location a little bit?
Yes, Art Album is sponsoring the event. We're very lucky to be having Roses and Ruckus there. Art Album is at 4700 Wissahickon Avenue, and we're not that far from the H-Bus, the XH-Bus, whatever that is. Drops you right off there, nice little compound, and we're entrance C.
How did that come about as far as just like them sponsoring and like opening their space up to you?
Yeah, well, really shout out to Ozuna from Art Album. I had been working with him for a little bit on some different things that had to do with Art Album, and we had built a relationship. And after I had kind of told him what my interests were, the things I was planning on doing, he really took interest to Roses and Ruckus and another future event, we'll say. And we decided to sponsor this event that would be a good fit for us and to feature it there. So excited.
I do want to make it a little personal. And like every time I've spoken to you, like one way or another, the conversation leads back to Harlem.
Harlem is such an amazing place, and it's very underrated. As a child, I was influenced by a lot, and there was just a lot around me that I was lucky to just be a part of. For instance, I never forget that I was going out with my mom one time. I think I was about 8 or 9, and we were walking down 125th Street in the middle of like the shopping center. And I never forget seeing DMX and the Rough Riders ride down the street and just throw out bandanas and t-shirts and really just give back. Like, whatever you may say about artists, I think a lot of artists don't come from an easy life and have a great upbringing. But seeing those moments that these people that could be otherwise looked at as criminals, or like what people like to say, like goons or felons, whatever you want to say, were able to just ride through the block and just give back to the community, talk, sit down, take pictures with people. Those small moments are the things that really make a difference in someone's life. And I think that moment in particular is another one that really stood out to me.
Can you talk about like Harlem as far as like your influence in either your artistry or even like throwing events?
Yeah, I mean, New York, Harlem especially, is such a DIY place. Like, there's a lot of events that are just like, oh, we're just standing in front of this deli and got a boombox and everybody just rapping, and that becomes a whole vibe. And it's just like, you guys got a JBL speaker and are eating a sandwich, rapping about nothing. Like, but that's a hell of a time. And I was really, really lucky to grow up where I did and when I did. The timing, the location. Harlem has had such an impact on me, from the way I dress, the way I talk. Growing up in Harlem, there are a lot of other Black businessmen that you get to see and actually get to strive to be. It's very hard in other places that you don't really get to see a Black man in the entertainment industry who's not doing something wrong. And it's just like, just to actually have these like people that just made it out of Harlem or made it out of New York and were able just to keep their head on their shoulders. Like, what else could I ask for?
Right, and it sounds like it's really important to have like not only the culture that comes from the area and like the appreciation for the arts. I mean, just to be able to see people who have that appreciation actually be successful and thrive. How many of these events, can I ask how many events you've brought back to Harlem, or have you done any big events in Harlem yet?
So I have never done an event through Runaway Roses in Harlem. I have done events in Harlem before. Actually, my first real performance was at Harlem Comedy Club, I believe. or Harlem Nights. No, that's a movie. Right.
That is a movie.
That is a movie. Oh, is it? Let me actually look this up because I think it is actually called Harlem Nights. Yeah, it is called Harlem Nights. Okay, I feel less. Yeah.
So I guess like to answer the question, like you've performed because you are a performing artist, and like I think it makes sense that your first live performance was in Harlem where you're from, but as far as just like do you have like a dream of like bringing what you do back at a larger scale?
Oh, for sure. I think if you don't do, no matter what field of art that you're in, but if you don't do it for the kids that look like you and come from where you come from, what are you doing it for? So I have a lot of plans of opening a studio in Harlem that's only for kids. Like just these small things that could really change someone's life. So I do plan on doing events in Harlem and these other bigger things in Harlem. I think sometimes with New York, and especially with the mayor and everything else is going on in New York, it's the politics.
What's going on in New York?
Oh, jeez. But just politics. Honestly, that's really it. It's a lot easier for me to do some events out here in Philly because to some degree, there aren't really people doing what I'm doing specifically. So it's a very niche thing. It's very new. Like there is no, how many times have you been to, a 2-day festival on someone's roof for like someone to really know what's the protocol? There's nothing in someone's lease that says you can't have a music festival on on your roof. So it's just like these smaller things you could kind of, there's a gray area in Philly. Where in New York, I have done I think maybe 3 or 4 outside events in New York. Each time the cops have come. Every single time the cops have come, they've always left and just been like, hey, we got a noise complaint, or oh, turn on the music, or what time are you guys ending? But it's just the fact that the cops have to come. And even in every single time, it's funny enough, I've always had at least one black cop and one white cop. And every single time, the black cop has always been like, hey man, I really don't want to do this, and I'm like, it's okay. I get it all the time.
But like you do have like a grander vision of just like back to number 3, community. Because you talk about building a studio and like focusing on kids and helping them cultivate their talents. Can you talk about like your kind of I guess like rise into it, or like you're like just getting into, like I believe you got into producing.
Yes, I did get into producing first. I got into producing from my friend Darian Harris and Isaiah Rapp. They went to the same school as me, but were older than me. So I always looked at them as bigger brothers. And when I had gotten out of my high school year that I went to freshman year, I was looking for something to do and I just was really lost. And I was fencing for a really long time, and then I stopped, and I just didn't know what I wanted to do. And for me, there was just a lot of pent up energy and sometimes anger that I just had. And fencing was the tool that I used to kind of get it out. And now that I had kind of stopped at 14, 15, I really just didn't know what to do. And music was the thing that really saved me and helped me. Because for me, if I was just left to cook and think of ideas by myself, I would have went straight to crime. I would have tried to rob a bank, just being honestly. And because I just was that kid that always had a new idea or a new plan or a new scheme. Like if you've seen Kenan and Kel, that was very much me. Like I had both of those energies where there was sometimes I just wanted to hang out and drink soda, and sometimes I'd be like, no, but how will we get rich? So, yeah.
And then it progresses into the artistry.
Yep.
Progresses into curating events. Like, how do you find time to balance all that? Because I take it you still produce your own beats?
Yes, I do. I still do produce for myself and for other people. I don't produce everything for myself. I have learned that's not the best way. Okay. For some artists, they like doing everything themselves, and I have no judgment against them. But for me, I produce for myself, but I can rap on other beats that are not just mine. And I think like that's something that could be forgotten sometimes when you do everything, is that a lot of times artists can end up secluding themselves because they only rap on their own beats. They only will use artists that they've worked with before or have some history with, or they go to the same engineers, the same studios, the same directors. And it's like, just switch it up, have some fun. If you're doing the same thing every time, you're not growing.
Yeah, and I feel like that kind of goes hand in hand with like the event curation, because it takes a lot of like opening yourself up to do these things. And if you're not known as someone that opens themselves up, why would I buy a ticket to your closed off shit? So like I like that. Like first off, like when you introduced what Runaway Roses was, you brought up the team immediately. Yeah. You know, and like it's like it takes a village type deal. And a lot of people don't really understand that. And like, I mean, I it's just an admirable thing. And like it just sounds really great that, like I said, you're just like opening yourself up. You rap on other beats, you produce for other people, you make your own stuff. It just seems like you're kind of like all around. And I think that makes for a great all around entrepreneur like yourself.
Thank you.
So, I mean, first off, I appreciate you like just sharing a lot of this stuff with me, with us. Like we're business owners ourselves, you know, if I could just toot our horn a little bit. Yeah. Good Suit Productions, comprised of like Marie's paintings, her art, the videos we do, and the different types of services that we want to get into, plus our own production. So, you know, a lot of the questions I'll like come up with is just really, I'm just trying to get some game from you, man. And like first I just wanted to say like really appreciate you being here and like, you know, just learning a lot so far.
And I'm sure you have like interest not only in curating events and making beats. What is your interest, like just like in life? What's it can be art, it can be something that just make you feel like good, because we all know there is a job and there is something for our soul. And when you make your hobby as your job, like you start doing it to get money, to get more involved in the circle, like if it's like musicians, it start to be commercial. Yeah. It's not that sacred somewhere you're sitting and doing it. So what do you have right now? If we know you do events and you do music, what do you have for yourself?
And no, that's a really deep question, because I do a lot of different disciplinary things in the field of art, whether it be, like you said, videography, event curation, music, whatever it is. It can be hard to enjoy my own events or my own songs, because it's like by the time it's come out in November, I've been sitting on the song since last November. So, and that's especially me with albums, I drop an album every year. So but by the time it came out, that some of the songs might be from 2 years, or the event might have been something that I thought about when I was a kid and just never did it till now. I think in order for me to have peace, I have to be okay with giving away a piece of myself sometimes. So I still do have music and I still do have events and these different things, and they are mine, but they're mine in a different way. I get to look back on them almost like a piece of art or a piece of history and be like, okay, that was mine. Because in the moment when you're doing an event, I always tell people, like, oh, are you having fun? I'm like, I'm running around, like making sure the bathroom has toilet paper and making sure all the artists have come in on time, and I have to direct the traffic in the parking lot. Like you're doing everything. So it's like, I don't really get to necessarily sit down and be like, oh, all the artists were really, like their voices were so clear, and the curation and all the lights are so beautiful. Like I'm over here like, oh my God, what are we gonna do? So it could be difficult, but I have to be okay with giving away a little bit of myself to kind of let everybody get a bigger piece of myself, if that makes sense. Because if I wasn't okay with being like, all right, I may not be able to sit down and see every artist perform at one of my events, and I have to be okay with that. But if I wasn't, people wouldn't necessarily have a reason to be like, oh, well, I'm going to go all in and really see like what Runaway Roses and JXHAR is about. So it comes with a balance. It's hard. There are some things that are in my personal life that I pull a lot from in music, and there's some that it's very like small. So for instance, I don't really talk a lot about me fencing in music. And it's not to say like it's something I've ever hid or been shy from. It just hasn't worked its way into like music for me, at least so far. Even recently, it was funny. I didn't really talk about anything I really ate or like drank. It was like only been probably in the last year that like I started talking about like drinking boba in songs, because it was like I drink bubble tea all the time and people always see me with bubble tea. It makes sense to rap a verse about bubble tea. So, or even like on the project, like there's a line about me talking about like getting Thai food or like going on dates, and it always being, because to my friends, like that's an inside joke that they're always like, oh, if JXHAR's at a Thai restaurant, he's probably on a date. So it's like those small things that people may not know, but I'm giving up a small piece so you guys can get a bigger piece.
Yeah, I think like that's an actually really valuable lesson that I've been trying to apply, like even with producing this show with Marie, like offering like a piece of ourselves to, you know, like not only entertain and like share our stories, but to like help people feel comfortable with us. Yeah. Like especially for us, like we're not from Philly. Like I'm also from New York. Yeah. Marie's not from New York, she's from Ukraine. Little further away.
Slightly.
Just a long ass flight. But like we find ourselves like in these new communities, and like the only way that you can really ingratiate yourself is either by service or just by offering a piece of yourself so people know like, hey, I can trust this person. So like I said, you're just like offering like these really great tidbits that have been like really great so far.
Thank you.
Just another personal thing, like, can you explain your name? I believe when we last spoke, you said it comes from, it's a Muslim name, or like of Muslim origin.
Yes.
It's an interesting name, but I'm just kind of curious like more about it. Can you tell us what JXHAR is as far as the name? And
so JXHAR means precious jewel. It's a Muslim name. My dad's Muslim, and funny enough, it was my mom's idea. Which is always kind of cracks me up a little bit. The name really means a lot to me. I think growing up as a kid, I didn't really get it, just because it's like my name's JXHAR, and younger kids, they're like, what is a JXHAR? I've never heard that. And like the only J name I know is Joe or James. And it's just like, well, I'm neither one. And
did you ever get like a lot of people just trying to call you Joe for short?
Yes, 100%. People always call me Joe.
Does that bother you?
You doesn't look like a Joe.
I don't look like a Joe. Like I don't look like a Joe, and it bothered me as I got older, because my mom's like, your name is JXHAR. There's a lot of Joes in this world. You are the only JXHAR I have ever met. It's like, word, Mama Dukes was spitting. Like and I tell people all the time, like it sounds funny or cliche, but there really is only one JXHAR. Like I'm really the first and only JXHAR that people have met, and I like that. And I think if they have, and to the ones, my other Muslim homies out there, if you have met another JXHAR, they are usually not like me. They are very different. So it's when I was younger, I had some just more negative feelings towards it, because I think when you're a kid, it's very easy to have FOMO and just be like, oh, I just want to fit in, and just like it's very easy to not. When you're younger, it's a lot easier, I've noticed, because you don't have a better sense of your personality, that you're trying to just fit in everywhere. And I've always stood out as a kid. And I think maybe around the time of like middle school, a lot of my more like standing out energy turned into like, no, like I just want to fit in and be like with the regular kids. It'd be like, I didn't want to be JXHAR. I wanted just to be Joe, because it was easier to blend in as Joe than as JXHAR.
How long did it take you to accept your name?
25 years, and I'm only 24.
And I think I'm like really curious about the name thing, because like, I mean, my name's actually Jesus. Like the big J, man, just in Espanol.
The big J.
The big J.
That's the one.
And yeah, like, I mean, I'm 33, and like like growing up, like, you know, like my parents would be like the same thing. Like it's my father's name, like it's Jesus, you know, and like, I don't know, like, and like this is kind of like I guess still an acceptance thing for me, but like I felt like being Jesus like really narrowed me down. But then again, it's also who I am. So just like kind of hearing somebody's perspective on like their name and like what it means, it always interests me. And I don't necessarily know how to accept or like, so that's like, or like identify. Like, cause I identify with both. Like in my head, I call myself Jesus and I call myself Jay. I feel like Jay is like the more front facing guy. And I feel like Jesus is like the scared kid that's still trying to figure it out. So it's just trying to like take those personalities within myself and trying to figure that out. And a lot of that comes down to the name for me. So like, do you like, you just straight up JXHAR, don't call me Joe, don't call me Jay, none of that. And that took you 24 years to just like come to terms with that, huh?
Yeah, no, like that's why, like, all jokes aside, that's why I said like 25 years and I'm only 24, because like I don't know, even as much as I accept it, you don't ever fully accept it. Just some days are better than other days, but you always kind of have, like you said with Jesus, like that little kid moment inside you where you're like, I don't want to, maybe a nickname is better. Maybe I just like play incognito, like just in the background, da, 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 da. And
for me, it was a little bit more of the opposite. I felt like once I went by Jay, I was just like, I felt like I could be more open. I don't know if it was like a mask or like I guess like a mask that I used Jay as. Not necessarily a mask, but just like kind of more like, I felt more free to express myself.
Let me ask you, and I think with names, the thing I think I always go back and think about is in Batman, do you think Batman is the mask, or is Batman who he really is?
You know what? Honestly, I think Batman is who he is in the same way where like what Marie and I are doing now, like Good Soup. That's kind of like, I actually spoke about this with Marie yesterday where like, I don't know if I identified too much with Good Soup because literally, man, I'm a cable guy by day, not a Playboy billionaire, but I'm a cable guy by day. And then literally at night, as soon as I come home, like Marie can attest to this, I jump on the laptop, we're talking about different ideas, we're trying to connect with people and like get things shaking. So yeah, in this metaphor, like not in real life, I'm Batman. But I don't want to necessarily disregard my roots either. So it's just like at 33, like 33 being named Jesus is kind of wild, but
Yeah, you have a lot of changes during this time.
the biggest change. Yeah. Such a big change that it changed what we called years.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And I think if I can say, the name, it's something like, it's a personal. It's not something personal. It's definitely a personal thing. And if you like to be called Jay, that's okay. You have two names. If you like to be called JXHAR, that's your name. And you don't want any different names. If you, growing up, you just don't feel like your name fits you and you decide to change it, I don't think you must be upset about it. This is still your name somewhere there. How parents call you, right? But if you don't feel it, don't like push yourself.
Don't force it.
Don't force it. Yeah, right. And about you, the two different things. Sometimes there's a full name, like in Ukraine we have like a full name and like a short sweet name, or like just a short name because it's complicated to like Konstantin, Victor. Nobody's called the full name like that. So if you heard the full name of any person, right, and you just like, oh, that sounds so serious. That sounds dead serious. It sounds like he have like LLC and sell the sneakers. I don't know. Yeah. Like it sounds like important. And in your situation, that sounds that much important that you feel much easier to go couple levels like easier. So Jay is like something cool but much easier than Jesus. Yeah. And it makes you still Jesus. You still right there. You still like have this open heart, trying to help. He do this stuff. But he just like, I better be like couple steps down. We don't know how people call Jesus in his time, right?
Yeah.
They call him full name because they respect him. Maybe they call him Jay.
Very true. I definitely think even with my name, it did take a lot of time for me just to have a confidence, because I think when I was younger, I used nicknames as a way to give myself an okay to not correct people. So if they were like, "Oh, Joe," or "Oh, like, can I just call you Jay?" or something, I'd be like, "Yeah, like that's fine." Even though in my head it's like, "Nah, I've never been called that before. I actually don't like being called that." But it's a lot easier for you just to say okay than to say no, I actually don't like that. Or, oh no, my name is this. And it's funny now as an artist, like when I say my name, they're like, no, like what's your real name? I'm like, no, my real name is JXHAR. Like that that is my real name. And they're like, oh, cool ass name.
What is the wildest mispronunciation of your name?
Oh, anytime I'm speaking to a Dominican older lady, it's always Yohar. And I'm always like, the Y. You're breaking my heart, lady. It's always the Y.
I mean,
I get it.
I mean, it's like Jesus versus Jesus.
Yeah. No. Jesus and Yohar.
No, but I'm just trying to defend Spanish people, man.
I get it. It's all love. I mean, I think like that's also different. Like, someone saying like you saying my name with an accent and you saying my name like mispronouncing it is very different. Like my mom, or not my mom, and a lot of like just people from the South I've noticed say JXHAR. So, and it's not like almost like if it was an A, but it's like it doesn't. To me, when people ask like, well, is it JXHAR or is it JXHAR? And I'm like, what? My mom says JXHAR. My mom says Joe. Like, and my dad says JXHAR. It doesn't. I don't really care that much. Like, as long as you spell it right, it's okay.
I was gonna say, for me, the wildest mispronunciation of my name, it's actually two of them. I had a science teacher in 9th grade, and she would say, "Hey, sus."
That hurts.
Hey sis. And it's like, it's not like, so like the right pronunciation is Jesus. People say Jesus, like I let that slide usually. But hey sus is wild. The second one, Jose. People for some reason will look at literally like the Christian name Jesus, know that it's in Spanish, and just say Jose.
I could see that.
No,
I can see that. Because you know what?
It's the HJ sound.
Well, I wouldn't even say that. I was going to say, because I had a friend who, his same name as you, but he went by Jose. Like that was his, and I remember I used to always make fun of him and be like, but Jose's not, that's not a nickname of that. Right. Like, it'd be like, if your name was Timothy and you were like, yeah, just call me Bob. Like, how did you get there?
Can we talk about Sincerely Dreamboat a little bit?
Yes.
Your latest project.
Yeah.
Most recent project, rather.
Yes. Sincerely Dreamboat was my most recent project. Came out July 20th, 2024. A really amazing album, amazing love story, just an amazing project for you just to get vulnerable to. Yeah.
If you had to recommend a track, like for someone who doesn't know your sound, like I'm putting my best foot forward and I'm trying to make you a fan, I'll give you two.
Okay. I'd say for someone that has never heard a single song, or like this is it, number one would probably have to be Concrete Roses. Like it's my bread and butter right there. Number two would be Work or Cry. I feel like Work or Cry is a good one on that one. Underrated. What you would say.
And how's the reception for that been so far?
It's been good. People really enjoy listening to the album. I think everyone that's listened to it has told me that they understand why it took so long. It's fun. It's funny hearing that from fans and like supporters. Just hearing people be like, "Nah, you could tell that this is a real story. Like this is a real project. It has a theme, it has concepts. You're not just running through it in 20, 30 minutes. Like I gave you a full body of work.
What would you say the underlying theme of it is?
The underlying theme is love, but it's different types of love. Like whether it be love for self or love for others or love for family. It's that finding the middle ground, like you trying to just find love in all three different fields.
It's awesome, man. And you mentioned something to us before shooting.
Yes.
You got a project on the way?
Yes, I played. Good Soup got to hear the exclusive. I have a new EP called Love is for the Disturbed. It's a continuation of Sincerely Dreamboat. I'm really excited about it. All the songs are very different from each other. I mean, you could probably,
Yeah.
it's pretty different. I don't like deluxes. So instead of making you guys listen to the same album plus 3 songs, I'll just give you the plus 3 songs. Plus, I'll give you some new videos and some new interviews that I'll be releasing and other stuff like that. So for people that may be fans now and are like, oh, I don't want to go back to something that was months ago, this gives you a reason to go back. And it continues the story. Everything ties in.
Awesome. And when can we expect that?
You can expect it. Roses and Ruckus is November 16th. I will say, come to Roses and Ruckus. You may hear a sneak peek of some of the songs. If you don't come to Roses and Ruckus, then just be on the lookout around that time. Somewhere around that time, you may get some new JXHAR music.
Do you ever use your events to promote like yourself specifically? I mean, I know there's a huge community aspect, but you got to eat too.
I do, but I don't. And that's something I probably have to get better at. Like, it's funny, my last event, I actually wasn't planning on performing. It was the other performers that were like, wait, you're not performing? And it's like, nah, like I just was gonna say like, welcome to the show, whatever, and just work the door. And they're like, no, you have to perform. I was like, oh, okay, fine, I'll do a song. Like, even then, like I would kind of just
get self-conscious about that?
No, I think it's not necessarily me not wanting to perform or me even being scared to perform or nervous. It's, well, I mean, anytime I perform, I'm nervous. I'd be nervous performing in front of my mom or something. But it's more so like being okay with my role. I think a lot of times when you're the best advice I had ever gotten about running a business or doing anything in music with like whether it's a label, some type of group, was you have to be okay with not being the star. And when I'm performing, if I was performing, I would really try and bring in, I'm bringing fans like, oh, this is a JXHAR show, like a JXHAR performance, this and that. But as a businessman, I'm really more focused on making sure all their fans come in are supporting, all their people are staying. Like I'm the one that's, while you're performing, I'm going down in the crowd and going down in the kitchen or wherever we're at, like the break room, and then like, hey, Jay's about to perform, do his last set. Everybody come upstairs, or posting it up on taking the good videos because maybe you didn't bring any people, but you'd still like to post up the video online. I'm the person that's taking the video for you. So I'm okay with just playing my role. Like if you want to see me perform, I always have a performance somewhere in the cut. Just follow me.
Where can they follow you?
You can follow me on Instagram at JXHAR. All of my performances, events, all the stuff is always on my Instagram. You can also follow Runaway Roses at runawayroses.ent. That's runawayroses.ent on Instagram.
Well, JXHAR, thank you for sitting with us. Thank you for chatting with us and not only like showing and sharing who you are with us, but kind of putting us on some game too. We're a little bit of a newer business ourselves, and we want to grow up to be a big kid just like you.
Please. I feel like people are always, especially in the entertainment industry, people are always so scared to ask questions, and people are also so scared just to give answers. Like if I tell you what I did to help me work, me telling you that is any like lessening my value, being like, oh, well, I'm scared you may do it and do it better than me. It's like, what? Come on, man. Like if you can't give someone business tips and you're so worried that they'll take your business tips and be better than you, or like, then you're not supposed to be in this business. So, I mean, any type of help I could give, I'm always here for.
Well, we appreciate it, and we appreciate you sitting down with us.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you again. So thank you for joining us for another episode of Good Soup After Dark. We hope you enjoyed that interview. Marie, what did you think about it?
We talk about important thing to him, to us, and towards our community, the artist community, musician community. I think what he do, it's really cool. It's helpful and really, he's actually really supportive. And I think how he support his artists who come to his events, we must just be the same way supportive towards everything we do and be understanding to people who we work with. When you work with the talents, you must remember the talents, they still artists and they still have own opinion and they still try to put artsy in their work. And I think our guest really good with working with the artist, and he know what artists need because he's artist himself.
I think we've had our own personal experiences, whether they've been good or bad, just kind of getting into this field. For the past, I guess at this point, it'll be a solid year that we've been working together as Good Soup Productions and kind of really finding our footing in this industry and in this space. And yeah, it was a really great conversation with JXHAR, and just kind of piggybacking off of what Marie said, the importance of working with artists and understanding where they come from and understanding their objectives.
So subscribe on JXHAR, subscribe on our channel. You will definitely find a lot of cool stuff here and there.
I think this is a pretty great conversation, and we're really glad that you guys are tuning in with us.